if it's not a human being or something. So they got these effects in society. Wherever alcohol is linked with, it's always something bad. So the alcohol is the mother of all evil for that, because the minute you do it covers your mind, you do everything bad.
Yeah.
So it is from the work of Satan. That's how Allah Azza wa Jal describes it in the Quran. And that's why Allah says, don't even come near it. Let alone drinking it, don't even come near it, right? So that is a very basic, I would say, worldview when it comes to the idea of why, like the wisdom, some of the wisdoms, there's many more, but some of the wisdoms we can see as human beings of the prohibition of such a substance. And some people can say, I drink a little bit, I'm not an alcoholic. But nobody starts as an alcoholic. Everyone starts by drinking a little bit. But then you start having bad things in your life, you drink more. And then because alcohol is a drug, you always need more in order for you to go in that state of losing consciousness. You develop tolerance. That's how human bodies are. So you drink more and more. And then you end up becoming an alcoholic. That's how every alcoholic becomes an alcoholic. So you're telling me, oh, I'm a responsible drinker. Every alcoholic was a responsible drinker. That's not an argument, basically, from that some people make. Because any amount is harmful for you. Now, when it comes to the alcohol in paradise, Allah explicitly mentions in the Quran that alcohol is not, like alcohol you're going to drink is going to be sour and you're going to be like, making these facial expressions after you drink it, right? That's not going to be that. The alcohol, Allah says in the Quran, it's not going to give you these effects of losing consciousness and mind or the after effects, the hangovers that people have and throwing up every morning, which is another thing you can add to the problems of alcohol list, You're not going to have that in the alcohol of paradise. So anything in the Quran that has the same name of something that exists in this life, it's unlike it in paradise. The Prophet told us whatever is in paradise is what no eyes have seen, what no ear have heard, and what no mind can imagine. So that is no way near the alcohol of that we have in this life. Even you have the same term used for it, but it is not that. Because Allah tells us these descriptions that I was just telling you about. So I hope that, does that make sense?
Absolutely. That made perfect sense, yeah. Is it okay if I throw another question at you as well?
Yeah, of course. No issues.
Beautiful.
Absolutely.
Thank you, man. I was looking into as well, discussing with kind of my friends of the hadiths, right? And then some people were mentioning that some of the hadiths are more kind of authenticated and credible than some of the others. And I personally have no knowledge of any of this. So I was just kind of curious to get like an inside kind of, look into which are they all authentic? Are they all, or are some more authentic than others? And just kind of the viewpoint of that.
Yeah, sure. So a hadith is what is narrated from the Prophet, authentically narrated from the Prophet, from his actions, his sayings, things he approved of, or his description. Like whether it is his physical description or his character, his manners, what he did, etc. Because he's the example for mankind. So it's important for us to know, of course, the mannerisms, the behaviors that he did, so we can imitate them and do the same things when it comes to mannerisms and act and these specific things. So that is what hadith is. So that hadith essentially is composed of two parts. The text, i.e. what the Prophet said, what he did, what he approved of, the event, what took place. We call that matn. And then we have the other parts, which we call sanad, which is the chain of transmission. Who transmitted this information? Who told us this event or this thing that the Prophet did? Who said that? So we have something called a chain of narration. It will be has to be someone who met the Prophet, saw him, did what he did. And then this chain of transmission, you need to have someone who met the person who met the Prophet, then someone who met him, etc., until it reaches who gave us the event. Now, this is the case with every single narration we take from the Prophet. Even if that narration was, do this only. These two words. For these two words, we need a chain of narration of reliable individuals. That's it. Now, there is an authentic hadith, authentic narration, and a weak or a fabricated. So the weakest form of narrations is fabricated. Someone who completely fabricated something about the Prophet are reliable, we completely reject that. Then you have weak. So you have a narration, for instance, and you have a chain of people transmitting it. But one person in the chain, he didn't have a good memory. How do we know? People in his community, they test him. And we have information about his reliability from them. Every single person in the chain.
Mhm.
Now that
Okay.
person has a weak memory, so we say that's a weak narration because we cannot rely on someone with a weak memory.
Mhm.
Someone narrated something from someone he couldn't have met. Let's say someone who lived to 150 years before him. He couldn't have met him.
Mhm.
So we say that this called a chain. It has a disconnection there. It's not a connected chain. So that's a weak narration. We don't accept that.
Mhm.
So we have, it's a whole science. And you use that science to decipher narrations which you will call weak and reject based on these evidences that we're saying. One person in the
Mhm.
chain lied or was a liar. We don't accept that narration. It doesn't matter. Even if the
Right.
rest of the people are honest, one person is a liar, the whole narration is rejected. We don't accept it.
Mhm.
So that's how we view the narration. And there's a whole science and tens of thousands of books written, tens of thousands of
Mhm.
books about the men in the chain, where they
Mhm.
lived, what their community said about them, how good with their memory. They became weaker when they were older. They were stronger when they everything about them is there.
Mhm.
And these narrations, existence of all of this information is in the books essentially, and um, the books of the hadith itself, meaning the reports of
Mhm.
the Prophet, like Bukhari, for
Okay.
example, what the Prophet said, what he did, Muslim, and all of these different books. So
Mhm.
hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, it definitely does. Yeah, and it kind of gives me a concept to look at them, and okay, that makes a lot of sense that they're passed down orally, and then that person is also kind of like tested to make
Yes.
sure that they know what they're talking
So
about.
it's written and
Yeah.
orally
Okay.
as well. So we even have written
Yes.
narrations of hadith very early, 100, 200 years after the Prophet. We have. So
Mhm.
we have Anas ibn Malik, his Muwatta, his book, we have it. And he was in the second century. In the first 200
Mhm.
years, you have Bukhari's as well. Bukhari's writing, we have Muslims. We have very early narrations, not only oral, but yes, we also mainly rely on the oral because we have all of the information about the oral narrators written and attested to as
Mhm.
well.
Okay. Mhm. No,
There
that
is no
makes a
one in
lot of
history,
sense.
in human
Mhm.
history, that goes to this extent when it comes to history, to
Mhm.
reliability of information. No religion, no civilization, nothing. Nobody.
Mhm.
Only Muslims went to that extent to preserve their
Mhm.
tradition and make sure that whatever is passed down is reliable information. Because we believe
Yeah.
Prophet Muhammad is the last messenger, and
Mhm.
after him, until the day of judgment, there's no other messengers. So the message needs to be preserved. Because
Yeah.
people like you and myself, we need to know what the Creator wants from us or requires from us, etc.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I
Okay.
said Anas ibn
Mhm.
Malik. I mean Malik ibn Anas, actually. Sorry, that's one is a
Oh.
companion and one is a authored the narration, but it's okay. Yes.
Oh, okay. To me, it's I struggle quite a bit with this. Uh, um, as well.
Yeah,
Oh,
because
sorry, I
if
just
you
had one.
ask like very detailed questions, you will
Mhm.
get like into very detailed issue areas sometimes. Yeah,
Mhm.
but not most people
Yeah.
would ask these questions, I would say. But if you come
Oh,
across
okay.
certain wrong information, it makes sense to ask these questions. So I get it.
Mhm. Uh, so in like you mentioned with the view of like the Bible is corrupted, right? People have corrupted it over time, right? It was people. And so how when you look at older prophets, right, and pulling information from that, does it work the same way with kind of the view of Jesus is the same with the view of Moses of just where you pull it from and you kind of have to have that grain of salt and if it doesn't align with the Quran, you probably should kind of look at it from a skewed kind of direction. Sorry, that was kind of awkward how I worded that.
Whatever information, yeah, we think about the prophets. Our source is the Quran
Okay.
because God knows history.
Mhm.
When it comes to unreliable sources writing information about prophets of God, it's neither here or there. And the biggest problem with that is it also makes zero sense. Most of it. It's irrational. Like if I hypothetically just say this is a very crude example, but it's an actual example in the Bible. Let's say I,
Mhm.
not me, let's just say some guy has
Mhm.
intercourse with his daughters, his own daughters. He drinks, he overdrinks. He
Mhm.
has intercourse with the daughter, his own daughter. And then the next day, he does the same thing with the other daughter, right?
Mhm.
Okay, it's two daughters. Now, and this person comes to you and says, my friend, I'm a prophet of God, and you're going to learn information from me about God now. What would you say to that
Mhm.
person?
I'd be quite skewed with what they're telling me.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, or another person who's like, you know what, he sees a woman, he thinks she's beautiful, and he has
Mhm.
an army commander, is very righteous, very loyal, but she's his wife. He says, you know what? I want this woman. It doesn't matter if this guy is the best army, most loyal. It doesn't matter. You know what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna send him to war. I'm gonna put him on the front line so he can die, and then I'll take his wife.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And when he dies, you go
Yeah.
and you have fornication with his wife.
Mhm.
And when you have a child, what they use the word "b" for it. I'm not gonna even say it, right? For that child that comes from these illegal relationships. Now that child is a prophet of God, and you're also a prophet of God, the one who sent the army leader to die. Yeah. And then
Mhm.
we're coming to teach you information.
Yeah.
Would you think, look, we just say rational, like logic, basic reasoning, you know? When God sends prophets and messengers, He's not going to choose someone who will do everything wrong under the sun. So you say, we don't take information from you. He'll send people which can be
Mhm.
examples for mankind, which will
Yeah.
be easy for you because God wants you to be guided, to accept the
Mhm.
message from them. That's why even
Yeah.
if you use common sense, we don't even need to go into whether this disagrees with the Quran or not. And all of this
Mhm.
nonsense, none of it exists in Islam about the prophets. We have the stories of the prophets. None of them do any of these things
Mhm.
because these are absolutely impossible to be described to people that you claim is actually prophets of God and people learn from them.
Yeah. Uh, I love that you pulled them right from the Bible.
Yeah, no, no. You know,
Uh,
the interesting thing is this
yeah.
is Lot, for example, we talked about the daughters, and he's called a righteous servant in the Bible.
Yeah. Mhm.
Like, and by the way, another prophet, if you want to talk about Abraham, he married his sister.
Mhm. Yep.
So that's what you always to say, you know. He married his own blood
Yeah.
sister. The Bible mentions that.
Mhm.
You don't call
Yeah.
it half sister, whatever, but still a sister, his sister.
Mhm.
And he married it. Like, look, come on, just call some common sense. We're not going to accept this
Yeah.
information about prophets of God.
Yeah.
Wherever you look about prophet of God, you find very crazy attributions to them, and it would make perfect sense for the people, that nation that these prophets were sent to,
Mhm.
which were a corrupt nation. They worship the calf. They changed the revelation of God multiple times. They killed prophets of God. Of course, they're going to change and attribute the worst things to the prophets. They
Yeah.
attribute the worst things to God Himself. Why wouldn't
Mhm.
they do it to the prophets? They said God is defeated by Jacob in a wrestling
Mhm.
match. He forgets and he needs to be remember. He regrets the decisions that he made. The rainbow reminds him when he forgets. All of this nonsense
Mhm.
that they describe to God. So let alone prophets. Humans are not gonna, you're not gonna be
Mhm.
safe from their changes if they ascribe these things to God.
Yeah. That's a really good way to look at it. Yeah. I like that. Mhm. A lot more kind of like you were mentioning, common sense, kind of rationale
ascascac.
thoughts. Mhm. Yeah.
Sometimes they say, like some people say, common
Oasem,
sense is no longer common. It's with many of
Salut
these
cu
people
duša
that
aj
still follow these things.
Decembro,
The common
Mhm.
sense is not common there for some reason. Sadly,
Yeah.
for many
Kovaškalon.
individuals.
Mhm. Okay. I got another one for you. And please don't take this as disrespect. This is pure
Sure, sure.
curiosity and kind of genuine. So you hear a lot about, especially when you find, those random YouTube or TikTok videos of just, Christian arguing with Muslim and the cliche stuff of, and they'll kind of just throw
Second
out there,
part ju
well,
się kołem live.
Prophet Muhammad got with Aisha when
Létez
she
szok
was
is
quite
kló.
young. And I don't know the
Byśmy tu
date
się
or her age, so I'm not going to say
aspešeja.
it because personally, of
Sure.
course, I'm coming to you for knowledge. So I was kind of curious about, is there validity to that, and how old was Aisha when they got married, and just kind of the more rationale kind of look
Yeah,
at it.
for that I would prefer, because that would require another long explanation. I would say to
Second
the
part.
person who has this question to go to a video which I have specifically about that, which someone asks about why did Prophet marry a young daughter or something, or the Prophet's marriage, etc. You'll find it on my channel,
Okay.
available there, and it's like almost 20-minute video or something where I go from only about this topic because it's a very
Mhm.
common thing. 24/7 Christians have nothing to say except this, right?
Mhm.
There's nothing about Islam. Like, they sleep, like they wake up in the morning, Aisha. They sleep in the night, Aisha. Wait, like their
Yeah.
alarm, Aisha, Aisha, Aisha. That's how this is
Mhm.
how their life is. These Christians that you're
Yeah.
describing, this is how they live the life.
Mhm.
The funniest thing is, I'm gonna tell you this. The funniest things about these Christians specifically
Mhm.
is that they have in their own tradition. You have rabbis admitting to this. That Isaac married Rebecca at the age of 3. If you make
Yeah.
the calculation, it had to be the age of 3. So you see the age of
Yeah.
Sarah, the age of Abraham, when he's all of that. It had to
Mhm.
be. from 3 to 10. That was her age. So they have that in their tradition. They have the church fathers explicitly making statements about the age of marriage. They have no age of marriage in the Bible, actually, at all. Zero. There is no like a specific description. But they just come and try to, make these absurd comments, all it talks about the Bible is puberty. If you read Ezekiel, I'm not going to get into the verses because they're very graphic, It's not like
Yeah.
appropriate for YouTube, yeah? We talk about the woman is ready. It talks about her physical going through puberty. Talks about her
Yeah.
body parts, which we're not going to talk about. Anyways,
Yeah.
that's what the Bible talks about, okay? When it comes to when is the woman ready for marriage or intercourse or whatever term you want to use.
Yeah.
And they still try and make these arguments. I don't know how. And you know what's most important thing? The most important thing is this: Muslims have articles of faith, 6 articles of faith.
Okay.
If one Muslim comes and says, "I believe that Aisha, radiallahu anha, was 25 when the Prophet married her," hypothetically speaking, which is not the case. If he says that, is there any issue with him being a Muslim? Is he not a Muslim now? No. There's no issues at all. Why? I'll tell you why there's no
Jo,
issues. It's
ma
not one
shumë
for
që
Allah because of
ila,
belief.
ila ka po
We
si
don't say believing in
farmonte.
Allah, the books, the messengers, Aisha's age.
Po menu që je
No,
besa. Të
these
besa
are
s'ka
not the
po
articles of
shumë me
faith that
dikt
Muslims have.
akundin tem.
So this criticism that they have, it's not a criticism against the religion, because someone can still hold the belief, because just the age of one of the wife of the prophets when he married her, that information is not relevant to the foundations of the faith. Not if it is going to refute the religion if you say she's that age or that age. But this is the only thing they can hold on to, clutch to straws, because they have no substance when it comes to arguing actual foundations, like the reliability of their scriptures, evidences for their beliefs, that they have their creeds. This is what we argue when we come to arguments from a Muslim perspective.
Yeah.
So watching that video would be perfect if you'd like to like the whole details of it as well. But I'm just giving you an overview as to why this is not even an important matter to discuss.
Yeah, it's kind of just a bad preference, but like Hail Mary, they're just throwing it out there.
Red herring,
Yeah.
like some people will say. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Okay, no, that's great. I'll probably just definitely watch the video, yeah, because I've always been kind of curious about the background for that. Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
I'll give you one hint for the review. Are you from the US?
Canada, yeah.
Canada, okay. So do you know the legal age of marriage? That's the only hint I'm going to give you from the video, and then you can watch the video. Do you know the legal age of marriage in the 1800s in the US and in the UK?
I
Do you know
don't.
what it was?
No.
So you have William Blackstone. Who's William Blackstone? William Blackstone was a jurist in the 1800s, and they teach his books in Cambridge, and anyone who's studying law, they teach his books because he was a jurist and he wrote about law. So he has a book called Commentaries on the British Law of England. So he comments on the law at that time in the 1800s. Now he says in his book, in page 110, a woman can be given in marriage at the age of 7, entitled to dowry at the age of 9. So the legal age of marriage in the UK in the 1800s, now we're not talking about 1,400 years ago, we're talking about 200 years ago.
Yeah.
It was 7 years old. In Delaware, it was 7. And it was 10 generally in the US, in the Bible Belt, Texas, and these places. It was 10 years old. Now, a lot of the people are completely in a different world. They don't understand that human history was something. And today, development of women and their psychology and their mentality and marriage in society is a completely different thing. So applying these standards is called it's a fallacy called presentism. Applying the morality of today or the standards of today when things are different to the past, it's fallacious reasoning. But I'll let you watch the video, as I said, where I go into details about that.
Okay, phenomenal. Thank you.
No problem.
Well, here, I'll probably skedaddle. I'm supposed to be working. But thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
No issues. And you're welcome to be Muslim anytime, because I know your friend, he tells you why you're not Muslim yet. So I hope we dealt with the preventions, whatever was preventing you from taking that step. And anytime you're welcome to come back if you'd like to become Muslim or inquire about that or anything. And I'm sure your friend is also there. It was a pleasure talking to you, my friend. All right. See you.
All right, thank you so much. Have a great day.
No problem.
Hvor skal bussen bor de her? Kors. Też Nefisas, Nefisa masz cikiem mir. Aż parę trosz po kim szama. Nefisas. Måste jag też Nefiset. Nefisas cikiem mir. Nefis. Nefis jag bak. Nefisa är Nefis. Nuko šauns nerauc Diana jonka teidän moit. Sitä niinty. Yksin ama vei patapyl. Skena kontakt på. Apu. Footage the aspects ja pois. Shake thu posalloin. Jaha. Nuk po shka ke shkruaj çleva as dy shaban.
Çfarë gjuhë ke kje, më fal?
Arabisht.
Unë kom dëgju.
Qa ke ndëgju vete?
Shpirtin që nuk je të fol.
Qa ke?
Ma ke shqetësu shpirtin që nuk je të fol.
Shka e ka thumë valla.
Te broa dhe me fol shqip.
Ta kom qetsu shpirtin që nuk jam të full.
Po,
Ti, are you okay or what?
jo bro, you shut the fuck up te a që nega ty që mbrëra.
Ja, njeri probleme pas ka pas. Oj, onder! Take the Bize özgün demet say. Aa, demet say. Oh.
Just när jag sa gumma se passar ventilet. Viintä ventiilillä mä sekä morten, koska yleensä.
Joo, just. Mä saasin nataka paukata tien puun. Så det är en... Hade ich att jag kom någon smite. Typ att det blir en. Köra till massage.
E të luan?
Jo, fal.
Ha?
Fal.
Qëto në Albert Hardwoodit, qëto kemi ja qëtë parën, këtë tjera të këtine. Kje qëtu. Është Albert Hardwood.
Veç një.
Veç një është.
Ç'kjo?
Ja, tjetra.
Ç'kjo?
Qëkje, po. Ato ako morë si mosër.
Ç'kjo kja?
Ju.
Ç'kjo s'kja?
E dyta.
Tani qëtu
E dyta.
qëtu këtë janë për gjoshina?
Jo, veç e dyta është për qosh.
E këtu
Ka dalë. Kësej edhe herë?
and bridge flooring krejt.
Po.
Këtë
A e fshesh tjeve që ta?
e fsheva që të dyja. Që i kena kry me to.
Se më për fshinë ato?
Që për kujki jo
Se
bur.
më rëba më si heqë për pjatë ty që të mas mitë nga të rarë. Cila është i shkaj atina?
Ç'kja?
2800, është 2800, shërë? Hey.